How are you doing? The name Church of Christ, the Mary Church, the fan and the Mary, I'm not sure how. The beginning of the world today, you not sure how about the jar to me. Baby, someone started baby, and I hear about the jar to me. You see, I don't know where the thing, the picture show, very actually. Yo, in anumne adofo your Christ Jesus mo. Ewia so yɛde nkyia sonko afi Brabadi Kofodia Church of Christ. Ɛna yɛde brɛ mu yi. Me a meka sɛ yɛfrɛ me Onua Solomon baby. And I'm in my junior sister. In fact, she has recently begun studying, covenant eschatology, and she's doing well. So she's here today to help me, read the Bible. Like she's going to be my, she's a guest and she's going to assist me in, reading the scriptures. So, and all alone in the previous videos and most of the videos I have been doing, the reading, together with exegesis. But today he's here to help me in order to facilitate, uh, you know, uh, the presentation of this program or the making of this video. As I said, I can Brother Kofodia Church of Christ. And that's so you go so share BB and as a series on the tribulation of the first century as it relate to the parousia or the second coming of Christ, of which we prayer or which preterists believe that it was consummated in AD 70 in connection with the fall of Jerusalem and the temple. And share now share review and I say you make a lot of videos on this and say a YouTube channel now about hour of prayerism, hour of prayerism, and I say hour of prayerism. Obehu benya sa videos and I say preceding videos in your behind actually so that you get a fuller understanding, into what we mean by the tribulation of the first century as it relates to the second coming of Christ, which occurred in AD 70. Now, I should be brave so that I make no. Yeah, I believe I hope those will be the last video on this series. Yɛbɛhwɛ biribi ɛwɔ Matthew chapter 24, and the verses 29 to 31. Yɛyɛ ayɛ say Matthew chapter 24 no, ne the same kasa na ɛwɔ hɔ no anaasɛ deɛ ɛwɔ hɔ no the same thing na ɛwɔ Mark chapter 13 and Luke chapter 21. Ne nyinaa sɛ deɛ yɛfrɛ no Olivet Discourse no, ne extended version na ɛyɛ Book of Revelation. Because in any case, it talks about the destruction of that mystery Babylon. I said that great city, of Revelation 11:8. That is where our Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. So that city is what we call that great city, or the mystery, or that Babylon, that shadow Babylon. Okay, so the mystery Babylon of Revelation chapter 17, Revelation chapter 18, is the same as the old covenant apostate Jerusalem, and that's the old covenant Jerusalem, which killed the prophets, which killed the apostles, which killed those who were sent to him or to her, to convert them and to redeem them from that eminent wrath, which occurred in AD 70. That is that. But some of them were hardened that they failed to receive the gospel and to be saved. So that is the language of Second Thessalonians chapter 2, I think by verse 11, that they say Paul say almost follow delusions, so that they follow the lie that they were they follow delusion, and that they were made to believe a lie, so that they were not what they were not saved. So but the few who kept the faith and who believed were saved in the AD 70 pogrom. So that is what he believed was the case. Now, yɛgu so a yɛhwɛ biribi sɛdeɛ yɛka no, and then yɛbɛhwɛ biribi a Matthew chapter 24. Nti me scripture reader no ɛbɛkan na yɛahwɛ adeɛ a ɛwɔ Matthew chapter 24 verse 29 to 31. Nti deɛ yɛhwɛ no nti ɔbɛkan na yɛahwɛ adeɛ a ɛwɔ hɔ.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 29 to 31. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken.
All right. So, aha, yeah, what Bibi said immediately. Now, when you say something is immediately, that is very very imminent. So immediately after the tribulation of those days, after the troubles of those days, we have astronomical disturbances that is going to take place immediately after the fall of after the the end of that distress or that tribulation. We have the sun not giving it going darkening, the moon not giving out this light, the stars falling down. So we have all these things going to take place immediately after the fall or after the tribulation of those days. Now, my kind of say Matthew chapter 24 no, yes say the whole chapter in here, it was going to be occurred or it was going to be fulfilled in that generation who stood in Jesus' audience, when at the Mount, at Mount Olive. So I say, so kind verse 34, I say, assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. So we have the plural, linguistics there or plural part of speech or whatever. We have that in there. So it means it wasn't limited to a specific question as was posed in the verse verse 3, 2 and 3 of Matthew chapter 24. Three questions from Bisano, the destruction of the Jerusalem, the signs of his coming, and the end of that age. And Jesus say, all these things will by no means pass away this generation will by no means pass away till all these things takes place. So it's incongruous. In fact, it doesn't add up to limit all these things to selected questions of the verse 2 and 3. But I'll say all these because they ask 3 questions. I'll say all these will occur in this generation. But they will not pass till all these things are fulfilled. Now, so we have this generation. Now we have the tribulation occurring. So what he's saying is that immediately after the fall of Jerusalem, the tribulation of those days, the sun, like some the Mrs. Sanaka was say, we are no bekosum or srane so emanikania, and shromano so ebe fierce riding after, and also the powers of the heavens will be shaking. So now, what is it? Now we all believe that it was fulfilled way back in the AD 70. And see, yɛbisa yɛn ho sɛ, nti yɛhunu sɛ bosom no ama ne kanea saa da no, na nsoroma ɛtete ɛtɔ fam anaasɛ yɛka sɛn ewiem ahoɔden no ahyɛki anaa. Nti saa kasa wei ase ɛkyerɛ sɛn. Now, those of us who are familiar with what we call the apocalyptic Jewish judgment language, so unim sa kasa unim sa if you are well acquainted with Jewish judgment language, or say we a typical Jewish judgment language. Say we be kosum na bosumi ebe ko ebe ye wia bosumi ebe ye manikania na nsoma no betete ato no. Saa de no enya literal enya tra said ye hunu na ebinom eden omo hwehwe no ɛyɛ saa na ɛdɛn ɛte ate nkoka Jeremiah 30 or say unbelievers they follow signs no ɛnyɛ no na yɛdɛn yɛka but ɛyɛ typical apocalyptic Jewish judgment language na saa kasa na kyɛ ne na se kyerɛ tiawa ne sɛ ɛyɛ fall of a nation just ɔman bi ɛdɛn ɛbɛbɔ nti Jewfoɔ mu no sɛ ɔman bi ɛrebɛbɔ a na yɛuse saa kasa na excuse me, so ɔmo use saa kasa na ɔmo nim sɛ ɔman bi ɛbɛyɛ dɛn ɛrebɛbɔ, ɔman bi na ɛbɛbɔ na ɛnyɛ sɛ ewie yi a ɛda so sesie yi ɛbɛkɔ sum na no, you see we can't even have this, nature science koraa bɛka kyerɛ sɛ you can't even have these three, saa nneɛma mmiɛnsa, three elements appearing at the same time. Ɛnte saa, nti ɛyɛ apocalyptic Jewish judgment language, especially the coming of, the coming with clouds, so the ewiem mununkum wabɛbɛ wɔ mununkum no. Saa kasa no sɛ Jewfoɔ na ɔmo nim sɛ ɛyɛ the coming of, the Lord, okay, in the coming of Lord against a wicked nation. Now, sɛ yɛhwɛ ɛno na awie a ɛbɛkɔ so sɛ yɛsɛ yɛhwɛ up to verse 31 no, nti 29 no, yɛnim sɛ this is what is going to occur, this is what is going to happen when the tribulation, comes to an end. Okay, this is what there's going to be astronomical disturbances. Okay, so is this literal, but it's a judgment language which was well acquainted with the Jewish of the first century. I want to say Jew for no, I'm gonna come on kind of deal with ya. And come be who Jomo Yade. Go me who are some or more car. And come be who say ya dear yetra. I'm do me who say your mind be a bed and ebebo. Mind you, Jesus Christ says a moon say a chiwa dear a bomb mino, a cha, a conway, moose and a boy iodine, abba. Okay, Luke chapter 21, verse 20 to 21, verse 20 to 22. No, so moon say chiwa dear a bomb mino, a cha mine wish a moose and a boy iodine, abba. So the coming the astronomical disturbance, and so we are becosum, busum bay saying or sign a better say any winiano, a yatim wedding. Kasa chess or mine be a bedding, a babble. Now, the mine in question is the city of Jerusalem. Or mine no can Jerusalem, or mine or my day, or more air canon. Moment now, Mammy can be viewers, so can my two chapter, John chapter 5, verse 19. Ebana, she's our text, a text be most often than not, we tend to overlook, that that text kind of in yeah, John chapter 5, verse 19. My shall say, Jesus or Kai Elho.
In this John chapter John chapter 5, verse 19.
Following.
Verse 19 following. Jesus gave them this answer. I will tell you the truth. The son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his father doing. Because whatever the Father is does, the Son also does. For the Father loves the Son and shows.
Now, so verse 19 of John chapter 5. Said your kind no. I say Obano to me bibia ewo no ani pem. Anaso no ana ho odim. Ti said ye ohun say agya na eden. Eye no. If you said the agya no eye no sa na Obano so eden. Eye. Enti yenim say Jesus ka say ono ne agya no omo ye baako. I think John 10:30. Father and I are one, they are equal. Into ade omo ye hia so eden. Eye baako. Now, you share this oneness of what is the unity, the existing unity between the Father and the Son. No? So okay, Matthew, the same John chapter 17, verse 5, no, I believe so. So okay, same be ewo hosa. Verse 5, as well can say, and now, oh Father, kind of.
And now, John chapter
17.
This 17, verse 5. And now, Father, glorify me in your presence, and the glory I had with you before the world began.
All right, so they shared that glory before the world began. Okay, so there's equality, in terms of action or in terms of actions or doing between the Father and the Son. There's nothing different between them. And the glory that we had shared, aforetime. And he said, Christ was going to come in the glory of the Father. So that glory that they are talking about is the same glory the Father has acted in judgment with. So it is the same glory is going to come with in the eventual judgment which occurred in what? in AD 70. And to the same thing now, yɛhwɛ biribi so ɛwɔ Act chapter 17 verse 30-31 no nso ɛka asɛm bi ɛwɔ hɔ. Act chapter 17 no verse 30 ɛwɔ no nso sɛ
Acts chapter 17, verse 30-31.
mhm,
In the past, God overlooked such ignorance, but now He commands all people everywhere to repent. For He has set a day when He will judge the world with justice by the man He has appointed. He has given proof of this to all men by raising Him from the dead.
nti from ha no yɛnim sɛ the eventual judgment no, the last of the judgment no was committed into the hands of Christ. Now Christ is also say ɛwɔ John chapter 5 no verse 19 no say ɔntumi nyɛ biribiara on his own. He only does what he sees the fatherhood doing. Okay, and that is what he's also going to do. Now aha no Bible no kyerɛ say the last judgment has been given to Christ to execute. Okay, so now mighty Act chapter 17 okay, verse 31 is the same language of Matthew chapter 24 verse 29-31 the same language. Okay, so that is the rule of hermeneutics. And to say if equal there, now said the a lot of almost everybody know GDA said Matthew chapter 24 was consummated or was fulfilled in AD 70. And see, if the language of Matthew chapter 24 the same language of Act chapter 17 verse 31 following in there, and then what it means is that Matthew chapter 17 was also fulfilled in AD 70. So now then, until now we've seen equality. Yehu kroye ɛda ɛgya ne ɔba no ɔmo ntɛm yehu sɛ sana ɛgya even the son can do nothing by himself unless he sees the father doing. Okay, because what the father does is exactly what he also does. Now the father has committed the eventual judgment in the hands of Christ, and he was going to come. You see, they share the same glory. They had shared the same glory aforetime, according to John chapter 17 verse 5. Now, eventually, in the eventual judgment, Christ was going to come in the glory of what? Of his Father. Okay, now, yehu saa deɛ no yɛnkɔ Matthew chapter 20, yɛnkɔ John chapter 5 no, na yɛnsa yɛnkɔ kan verse 20 ɛreba no, na yɛnhwɛ nsɛm a ɛdɛn ɛwɔ ɛhɔ no so. Nti ɔbɛsɛn aka wei no
John chapter 5,
verse 19 no, 19 can be. Yes, 19.
John chapter 5, verse 19. Jesus gave them this answer. I will tell you the truth. The Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does.
So, okay, my version, I'll say, for whatever he does, the Son also does in like manner. Now, the word like manner, the Greek means hon trompon, and yet likeness, but describing the manner, and what the manner at which something is executed, and I say the manner at which of which something is what done. Okay, he was going to come in like manner, or he's going to do this in like manner, just as he has seen the fatherhood acted, in the past. That is hon trompon. The same language in our Act chapter 1, verse 11. Or see, Jesus said, he was going to come in like manner. That is hon trompon. And so he was not going to come the same way he was taken up, but he was going to come in like manner. And to Matthew chapter, Act chapter 1, verse 11, describing the same, manner of coming of Christ, in judgment. Okay, so you can say you use sameness there, and that's a semblance. Okay, the book of Revelation, I think verse 19, 15 corner. Also, Christ was going to come, riding on a horse. Yes, so him say Christ did not ascend on horse. You understand? So that whole trombone, and I said like manner, it described how the nature of the coming of Christ, in judgment, but it's not the same. The same language, and I was Matthew chapter 23, verse 37. Oh Jerusalem, Jerusalem, mo amukum, mo yasom, nkwamshefoɔ ne prophets ne adeɛ no. How I wish to have gathered you just as a hen gather its chicks, you know, be, beneath her wings. Oh, so the akoko bad time or gather a cancer. Ne mma no ɔde ɔmo hyɛ ne yɛka sɛ ne rings n'ase no nti in that case no Christ was not saying say ɔwɔ saa physical rings. Of course, Malachi chapter 4 verse I think 2 yɛnim sɛ Christ has rings sɛdeɛ describing it, but yeah, Christ physically has no what rings. It's talking about that gathering, that gathering, together of them. He has wished to gather them. So that gathering, was what take place in AD 70, according to the same Matthew chapter 24, verse 31, that he's going to send his angels to gather them for the four wings of the earth. So that gathering is the resurrection. Okay, that gathering is not that he has physical wings to gather them, but it was it was a resurrection what takes. So of course, we know that the second coming of Christ is the time of judgment and the time of what resurrection. And okay, Matthew chapter 24, verse 31, sa gathering then, okay, Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1, Christ is, Paul can say, concerning the day of the Lord and our being gathering together. So that's the time of what? Judgment. That is the time of judgment. Okay, John chapter 12, verse 32 now, Christ can say, when I am lifted up, I will draw all men. So that is what? Gathering. So that gathering occurred in AD 70 when Christ returned, in judgment against, old covenant Jerusalem. So the Bible no come yet ase no nti saa na ɛte. So that gathering and the time of the gathering, the time of the parousia, the time of judgment, and all occurred in AD 70, in that generation of Matthew chapter 24 verse 34 no. Saa na ɛte ɛwɔ hɔ. So egu so yɛkan John chapter 5 no. Yɛsɛ yɛkɔ verse 20 no, yɛsan hwɛ verse 20 na asɛm a ɛwɔ hɔ. What does it say?
John chapter 5, verse 20.
Uh-huh.
For the Father loved the Son and shows him all he does. Yes, to your amazement, he will show him even greater things than this. 21. For just as the Father raised the dead and gives them life, even so the Son gives life to whom he is pleased to give it. 22. Moreover, the Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son.
Okay, so in the same language of the Father judges no one, but he has entrusted the Father, that judgment to the Father. Is the same language of Acts chapter 17, verse 31. Okay, verse 23.
Verse 23. Mm-hmm. That all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. He who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. I tell you the truth. 24. Mm-hmm. Whoever.
Now, so you say the final judgment, has been committed, okay, but has committed all judgment to the Son. So you know that the Son is going to execute your judgment, and that judgment will be in tandem with how God has acted in judgment in the past. Now, in the past, we are almost, time, and see, next video, you better how God has acted in judgment in the past. Now, they compare a better language be the past judgment of Christ. Now, they share that of Matthew chapter 24 verse 29. No, and no be may you say indeed. Sakasa no can say osane manikania na osane kania no enso ewia so owia no bekosum na fi you can say ensroma no so ebetete ato no yebete sakasa na ase na yehu say indeed it was something that occurred in AD 70. Now let's say when it comes to I think Genesis chapter 29, I think 49 or can be bisa how can say the stars and the moons and those things is what is Israel. Okay, so the falling of this astronomical entities something that was directly related to Israel, especially in the New Testament, as far as judgment is concerned. Yɛbɛhwɛ yɛbɛkɔ so ahwɛ biribi wɔ yɛn next video no mu. All right.